All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. Third phase of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana to be launched today in 600 districts across the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to launch world's largest COVID-19 vaccination program tomorrow. Ninth round of talks between government and farmer unions to take place today. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden unveils $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. U.S. imposes new sanctions on Chinese officials. And state-owned oil company Cnoc. And in cricket, Australia was 79-2 against India in their fourth and final test at Brisbane a short while ago. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The third phase of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana PMKVY 3.0 will be launched today in 600 districts across the country. Spearheaded by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, this phase will focus on new age and COVID-related skills. Minister for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Dr. Mahendra Nath Pandey, will launch it in the presence of the Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Rajkumar Singh. The event will also be addressed by the state skill ministers and members of parliament. More from our correspondent.
The third phase of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana envisages training of 8 lakh candidates over a scheme period of 2020-2021 with an outlay of over 948 crore rupees. The 729 Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras (PMKK) training centers and more than 200 ITIs under Skill India will be rolling out Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana training to build a robust pool of skilled professionals. On the basis of learning gained from first and second phase of PMKVY, the ministry has improved the newer version of the scheme to match the current policy doctrine and energize the skilling ecosystem affected due to COVID-19 pandemic. Skill India mission was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2015, has gained a tremendous momentum through launch of its flagship scheme PMKVY to unlock the vision of making India the skill capital of the world. Anupam Mish, AIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with startups and address Prarambh Startup India International Summit tomorrow through video conferencing. The 2-day summit is being organized by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal will inaugurate the summit today. It is being organized as a follow-up of the announcement made by the Prime Minister at the 4th Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation BIMSTEC Summit, held in Kathmandu in August 2018, wherein India committed to host the BIMSTEC Startup Conclave. The summit marks the 5th anniversary of the Startup India initiative launched by the Prime Minister on 16th of January 2016. With participation from other 25 countries and more than 200 global speakers, the summit will be the largest startup conference organized by the Government of India since the launch of the Startup India initiative. Prarambh is expected to bring together top policymakers, industry, academia, investors, startups and all stakeholders from across the globe.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch the world's largest COVID-19 vaccination drive tomorrow morning through video conferencing. This pan-India rollout of COVID-19 vaccination drive will cover the entire length and breadth of the country. A total of 3,006 session sites across all states and union territories will be virtually connected during the launch. Around 100 beneficiaries will be vaccinated at each session site on the inaugural day. This vaccination program is based on the principle of priority groups to be vaccinated first. Healthcare workers, both in government and private sectors, including ICDS workers, will receive the vaccine in this phase. The vaccination program will use CoWIN, an online digital platform developed by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which will facilitate real-time information of vaccine stocks, storage temperature, and individualized tracking of beneficiaries for COVID-19 vaccine. A dedicated 24/7 call center with helpline number 1075 has also been established for addressing the queries related to COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine rollout, and the CoWIN software. Adequate doses of both Covishield and Covaxin have already been delivered across the country to all states and UTs with the active support of the Ministry of Civil Aviation. The 2 COVID-19 vaccines approved by the national regulator are safe. 49 eminent scientists and doctors have collectively assured this in a statement issued yesterday. They urge the countrymen to reject the manipulations of vested interests aimed at politicization and defamation of the scientists, doctors, and the scientific community.
The government has said that 2 doses of vaccine 28 days apart need to be taken by an individual to complete the vaccination schedule. The Health Ministry has come out with a series of frequently asked questions about COVID-19 vaccine on various aspects. Talking to AIR, Professor of GB Pant Hospital Dr. Sanjay Pandey said that protective levels of antibodies are generally developed 2 weeks after receiving the second dose of COVID-19 vaccine.
Total 2 doses of vaccine will be required, and they will be taken 28 days apart, and they will be taken by the individual to complete it, and then the vaccination schedule will be complete. Usually the antibody develops after 2 weeks, but the usual antibody to protect the disease develops only after completing the second dose of COVID-19 vaccine.
The ministry has said that vaccination for COVID-19 is voluntary. However, it has advised to receive the complete schedule of COVID-19 vaccine for protecting oneself against this disease. In Madhya Pradesh, State Immunization and Nodal COVID Vaccination Officer Dr. Santosh Shukla has said that the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine will be given to a cleanliness worker tomorrow as a mark of respect for services rendered by sanitation workers during the pandemic. Talking to AIR News, Dr. Shukla informed that the state is fully prepared for the vaccination program.
कोविड-19 वैक्सीन हमें प्राप्त हो चुकी है। 5,06,000 डोज हमने पूरे प्रदेश के सभी जिलों में वैक्सीन पहुंचा दी है। हमारे जो हितग्राही हैं, प्रथम रूप से हमने हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स को लिया है। 16 तारीख को नेशनल लॉन्चिंग होने जा रही है। मध्य प्रदेश में लाइव प्रोग्राम जेपी हॉस्पिटल भोपाल में होगा, जिसमें माननीय प्रधानमंत्री सीधे वार्तालाप करेंगे हमारे वैक्सीनेटर से। और प्रथम टीका जिसको चयन किया गया है वो हमारा सफाई कर्मी होगा और एक चिकित्सक जो नामी ग्रामी हर सिटी में है उनका भी टीका
In Bihar, all arrangements have been completed for COVID-19 vaccination drive starting from tomorrow. Health Minister Mangal Pandey said the state government has made all necessary preparations for the smooth conduct of the vaccination drive across the state. Mr. Pandey said vials have reached all 38 districts of the state. Webcasting of the vaccination drive will be undertaken at 50 centers in different parts of the state. He said district administration has been instructed to take utmost care during the vaccination campaign. The Health Minister said 2 doses of the same vaccine will be administered to the people after a gap of 28 days. In Orissa, COVID-19 vaccines have been kept ready at cold chain points across the state. From there, the vaccines will be dispatched to the respective session sites early tomorrow, that is the day of the nationwide rollout of the vaccination drive. More from our Odisha correspondent.
Odisha will carry out the statewide vaccination drive at about 160 session sites tomorrow. It has prepared a database of about 3.3 lakh healthcare and frontline workers to receive priority in vaccination during the first phase. For these, the state has already received 4.08 lakh doses of Serum Institute's Covishield and 20,000 doses of Bharat Biotech's Covaxin. Meanwhile, the identified healthcare professionals and workers, both who will administer the vaccine shots and those who will receive it, will be duly informed about their respective immunization itinerary through SMS as revealed by a top health department official. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
Telangana gears up for the COVID-19 vaccination drive to be held from tomorrow. The vaccines have reached the centers identified in various districts and kept ready for distribution to the centers further. The state authorities have identified 1,213 centers across the state to administer COVID-19 vaccine during the first phase. Health workers including ASHA workers, Anganwadi staff, medical and health department employees will be administered the vaccine first. Other frontline warriors including police, security personnel, sanitation workers will be given the next priority. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Edappadi Palanisamy will launch the COVID-19 vaccination at Madurai tomorrow. The stage is set ready to administer vaccine throughout the state. Covaxin and Covishield vaccines have been stored at the prescribed cold storages and have been sent to the districts. The state received the first lot of 59 boxes of Covishield vaccine from Pune, with each box containing 1,200 vials. More from our Chennai correspondent.
According to Principal Health Secretary Dr. Radhakrishnan, the state was allotted 5,56,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines, of which 5,36,000 were Covishield and 20,000 were Covaxin. Around 2,000 vaccine centers were readied in the state with the vaccine to be administered in 2 doses. 6 lakh frontline warriors have been identified and pre-registered for vaccination. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
Karnataka reported 408 new corona cases, 564 recoveries and 3 deaths in the last 24 hours. At present, 8,728 COVID patients are undergoing treatment in various hospitals. Bengaluru reported the highest number of 141 new cases. The state is fully geared up for the vaccination drive from tomorrow. More from our Bengaluru correspondent.
Karnataka received 20,000 doses of Covaxin yesterday from Bharat Biotech from Hyderabad. State has now 7,93,710 doses at its disposal for the vaccine drive. The state put out a district-wise vaccine distribution plan in which the highest allocation of 2,10,080 doses are allotted to Bengaluru Urban District. Vaccination will be done from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day after inauguration by the Prime Minister. The first person to get the vaccine in Karnataka on the inaugural day of the vaccination program on January 16 will be a sanitation worker. The state can vaccinate 3,96,855 healthcare workers in the first phase. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
India continues to leap ahead in its fight against COVID-19 with over 1,146,000 cumulative recoveries so far. With this, the national recovery rate has further improved to stand at 96.52%. The rate of new daily infections also continues to remain below the 20,000 mark, with only 16,946 cases being reported in the last 24 hours. In the same interval, over 17,500 people have successfully recovered from the viral contagion. The gap between the recovered patients and active cases in the country has further widened, and the number of recovered patients stands at nearly 48 times the number of current active cases. The active caseload in the country comprises nearly 213,000 cases and stands at 2.03%. Out of these, nearly 60% are under home isolation and have mild to very mild symptoms. Over 7,43,000 samples were tested for COVID in the country in the last 24 hours. With this, the cumulative testing figure has reached around 18 crore 42 lakhs.
Gujarat has recorded 517 new cases of COVID-19 during the last 24 hours. The recovery rate has further improved to 95.51%. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
Gujarat has received a total 5,41,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines for the first phase. Meanwhile, the total number of COVID-19 cases detected so far in Gujarat has reached up to 2,54,314. Out of this, 2,42,901 patients recovered. 737 patients recovered during the last 24 hours. Maximum 112 new cases reported from Ahmedabad, while Surat recorded 98 new cases. At present, total active cases in the state are 7,056, out of which 54 patients are on ventilator. 3 patients died yesterday due to COVID-19. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has unveiled a $1.9 trillion coronavirus emergency relief package. The stimulus plan underscores Biden's intent to aggressively shore up a deteriorating economy and address the devastation wrought by the pandemic. It is designed to provide another infusion of federal aid for families, businesses, and local governments confronting a surge of COVID cases. Biden's plan includes a new round of direct payments to U.S. households, funding to promote the safe opening of schools, and mounting a national vaccine program. Biden has set a goal of administering 100 million vaccine shots in the first 100 days after he takes office on January 20th. The U.S. government has approved 2 different vaccines for emergency use. Both require a 2-shot regimen. So far, more than 10 million people have received the first dose. In Chhattisgarh, the first case of avian influenza virus or bird flu has been confirmed in 5 samples of poultry chicken in Balod district yesterday. A high alert has been issued in all districts, stressing on increased surveillance around water bodies, live bird markets, zoos and poultry farms following confirmation of bird flu in the state. Agriculture Department officials said that surveillance has been stepped up in 10-kilometer radius of the affected area of village Gidali of Dhondi block in Balod district.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Third phase of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana to be launched today in 600 districts across the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to launch world's largest COVID-19 vaccination program tomorrow. 9th round of talks between government and farmer unions to take place today. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden unveils $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. U.S. imposes new sanctions on Chinese officials and state-owned oil company Cnoc. And in cricket, Australia were 87 for 2 against India in the 4th and final test at Brisbane a short while ago. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
The 9th round of talks between the government and the farmer unions will be held in New Delhi today. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar has said that the government is ready to hold talks with farmers' leaders with an open mind and hoped for positive discussions. The Supreme Court on Tuesday had stayed the implementation of 3 farm laws till further orders. It had also announced the formation of a committee to hear the grievances of the farmers and the opinion of the government. Bharatiya Kisan Union President Bhupinder Singh Maan, Shetkari Sangathan Maharashtra President Anil Ghanawat, International Food Policy Research Institute's Pramod Kumar Joshi and agriculture economist Ashok Gulati were appointed on the panel. Yesterday, Mr. Maan recused himself from the 4-member committee. Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Kendras have registered a record sale of 484 crore rupees in the current financial year. The sales were recorded at the 7,064 Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Kendras across all districts of the country, selling quality generic medicines. Chemicals and Fertilizer Minister Sadanand Gowda said that this is 60% higher than the corresponding figures of the previous financial year, and it has led to savings of approximately 3,000 crore rupees to the citizens of this country.
The budget session of the Parliament will begin on the 29th of this month. The session will commence with President Ram Nath Kovind's address to the joint sitting of both the houses. The Union budget will be presented on 1st of February. In order to enable the standing committees to consider the demands for grants of ministries or departments and prepare their reports, the Parliament will adjourn on 15th of February. The second part of the budget session will begin on 8th of March. Subject to exigencies of government business, the session is likely to conclude on the 8th of April. On the 5th of this month, Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs (CCPA) had recommended that the budget session of Parliament commences from 29th January and concludes on 8th of April. Kerala Finance Minister Thomas Isaac will present the state budget today. This is the last budget in the present tenure of the incumbent Left Democratic Front or LDF government. According to reports, new welfare programs will be announced in the budget as the LDF government aims to impress the people of all sectors of the society ahead of the upcoming assembly polls.
Jammu and Kashmir government has started a high-tech, round-the-clock call centre for pilgrims of Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine. It was inaugurated by Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha in Katra yesterday. It will prove a major leap towards creating a robust response mechanism to address the queries and grievances of the devotees. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Sinha termed the call centre as yet another initiative of the Shrine Board towards optimum utilization of available technologies for larger facilitation of the pilgrims. The call center has SMS, outbound services and email services for the convenience of the devotees. President Ramnath Kovind today greeted the valiant men and women of the Indian Army on the occasion of Army Day. In a tweet, Mr. Kovind said, "The nation remembers the brave hearts who made the supreme sacrifice in service to the nation." He said India will remain forever grateful to courageous and committed soldiers, veterans and their families. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also saluted the Indian Army on behalf of all the countrymen. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said, "Our army is strong, courageous and determined, which has always made the country proud." He greeted the soldiers and their families on the occasion. The Army Day is celebrated on January 15th every year to mark the taking over as Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army by then Lieutenant General K.M. Cariappa in 1949 from General Francis Busher, the last British Commander-in-Chief of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today bowed to the Venerable Thiruvalluvar or Thiruvalluvar Day. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said his thoughts and works reflect the immense knowledge as well as wisdom he was blessed with. Tamil Nadu celebrates Thiruvalluvar Day today in the honor of the poet Thiruvalluvar. Thiruvalluvar is also called the divine poet because of his couplets, which is an inspiration to lead an exemplary life. Thiruvalluvar Day is celebrated on the second day of the Thai month.
Foreign Affairs Minister of Nepal, Pradeep Kumar Gyavali, arrived in New Delhi yesterday on a 3-day official visit to India. Mr. Gyavali is scheduled to meet External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today. Both leaders will co-chair the 6th India-Nepal Joint Commission meeting in New Delhi. Replying to queries on the visit, MEA spokesperson Anurag Srivastav has said the Joint Commission is an important mechanism that provides the opportunity of reviewing at a high level the entire gamut of the bilateral partnership and providing political guidance to further enhance the special and unique ties that both countries enjoy. Replying to a query that whether the boundary issue will be on the agenda during the meeting, Mr. Srivastav said India's position on the boundary issue is well known. He said the Joint Commission meeting and boundary talks are separate mechanisms. A meeting of the India-Oman Strategic Consultative Group Ioscg was held in New Delhi yesterday. During the meeting, both sides reviewed the entire spectrum of mutual relationship, including in political, energy, trade, investment, defense, security, space, mining, science and technology, culture and consular fields. It was agreed that the two sides will pursue various agreements and MOUs in these areas for a future-oriented relationship. They looked forward to trade and investment linkages regaining momentum once normalcy returns after COVID-19. They also discussed intensifying cooperation in areas of health and food security. The two sides also exchanged views on recent regional developments as well as global issues of mutual interest.
Alphabet Inc.'s Google has said it has removed some lending apps aimed at consumers in India from Play Store in an attempt to safeguard users. In a blog post, Suzanne Frey, Vice President Product, Android Security and Privacy, said they have reviewed hundreds of personal loan apps in India based on flags submitted by users and government agencies. Google did not elaborate on the number of apps that had been taken down. It has contacted companies and asked them to clarify if they are compliant with the rules and regulations, failing which an app could be removed from the Play Store. US has imposed new sanctions on Chinese officials, state-owned enterprise and oil giant Cnoc to put them on a blacklist over Beijing's increasing assertiveness in the South China Sea. A statement from U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the U.S. was imposing visa restrictions on Chinese individuals, including executives of state-owned enterprises and officials of the Chinese Communist Party and Navy. Mike Pompeo, while announcing the sanctions, said the U.S. stands with Southeast Asian claimant states seeking to defend their sovereign rights and interests consistent with the international law. Mike Pompeo further said the restrictions could also apply to immediate family members. The U.S. administration also added Chinese aviation firm Skyrizon and 9 other firms to the blacklist.
Now moving on to some sports news. Australia were 94 for 3 against India in the 4th and final cricket test at the Gabba in Brisbane a short while ago. Earlier, Australian captain Tim Paine won the toss and elected to bat first. India has made 4 changes in its playing 11 as Washington Sundar and T. Natarajan make their Test debut. Australia has made 1 change in its playing 11 from the third Test as opener failed to recover from the shoulder injury. Both teams will be looking to seal the hotly contested series with a win, but even a draw would see the series tied and the Border Gavaskar Trophy retained by India. In some international news, Indonesian divers have resumed a search for the remains of 62 victims and the cockpit voice recorder from a Sriwijaya airplane that plunged into the Java Sea soon after takeoff. The search at the crash site of the Boeing 737-500, which was travelling from Jakarta to Pontianak, had been temporarily suspended on Wednesday after bad weather. A team of divers recovered one of the plane's black boxes, the Flight Data Recorder or FDR, from the seabed earlier this week. Efforts are underway to retrieve the cockpit voice recorder.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. Srinagar will have partly cloudy sky. Temperature will hover between -4 degrees Celsius and 6 degrees. Jammu had fog or mist in the morning and mainly clear sky later. The minimum temperature was around 7 degrees Celsius while maximum will be 15 degrees. Leh will have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was around -14 degrees Celsius while the maximum will be around 0 degree. Gilgit will have mainly clear sky. Temperature will hover between -4 degrees to 11 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, sky will be mainly clear, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. The temperature will hover between 4 to 19 degrees Celsius. Dehradun observed minimum temperature of around 6 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 19 degrees. The city will witness mist. Chandigarh had fog in the morning and mainly clear sky later. The temperature is likely to hover between 6 to 16 degrees Celsius. The national capital is likely to have dense fog in the morning. The city temperature will hover between 6 degrees Celsius and 18 degrees. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky. Chennai will have partly cloudy sky. Temperature will vary between 24 and 30 degrees Celsius. In Kolkata, there was fog or mist in the morning and it will have clear sky later. The city observed minimum temperature of around 13 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 25 degrees. In Hyderabad, the minimum temperature was around 16 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be 29 degrees. Ahmedabad will have mainly clear sky, and in Patna, it observed fog in the morning and mainly clear sky later.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. All the dailies have covered the vaccine rollout story on their front pages today as the Prime Minister launches the drive tomorrow. Capital's 8100 warriors will take jabs on V-Day, writes Hindustan Times. The Pioneer adds, exercise, enough sleep must for efficacy according to experts. Post-jabs, India may get back on its feet in second half of 2021, reports the Economic Times. Another headline in the same paper writes, Google removes 30 digital lending apps from its store, acting against fintech loan apps that flouted RBI rules. A front page headline in the Tribune writes, Women help desks at Gurugram police stations, aiming to cater to women complainants. Ban on sale storage of poultry lifted in Delhi as test for bird flu negative is the headline in all the dailies including the Pioneer. Under fire over its recent policy updates, the Statesman quotes WhatsApp saying, open to queries from government on privacy policy update. And finally, a front page story in the Times of India reports, 20-month-old donor declared brain dead, saves 3 lives by donating her heart, liver and both kidneys.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Third phase of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana to be launched today in 600 districts across the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to launch world's largest COVID-19 vaccination program tomorrow. 9th round of talks between government and farmer unions to take place today. US President-elect Joe Biden unveils $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. US imposes new sanctions on Chinese officials and state-owned oil company Cnoc. And in cricket, Australia were 97 for 3 against India in their 4th and final test at Brisbane a short while ago. And with that we end the morning news. Have a nice day.